How's it going, ladies and bruises? I'm Bob Sixkilla and welcome back. Sekimeiya, you may remember in the last episode, the whole plan to isolate ourselves has fallen apart. Everybody's pissed off doing their own thing, and apparently we're going to too, because if you can't beat them, join them, apparently. So, yeah, this is gonna go real bad. We've already, lost 2 Naomis and an Isla. You know, what's next? Another Naomi? It's been so long since I drank anything. I bet you're thirsty too. We should have anticipated it. Yeah, I tried to drink water when I went to the bathroom, but it wasn't very good. I opened a cabinet to grab a glass. Tap water wasn't my preference at all, but it would suffice. I turned the valve, filled up the glass, and quickly took a sip. You should try the tap water that we have to put up with. Jesus, it's yellow. Oh, what the... You're right, no way this is drinkable. I grimaced at the taste. Not much water had flowed out of the tap, but although it was pretty transparent, it wasn't something I could drink. It had slightly alleviated the dryness, at least. I mean, it's better to drink shit water than it is to die of dehydration, right? I left the glass on the countertop and went to inspect one of the many things we had to check. The living room's floor. Look at this! I can see different pairs of footprints going between the entrance and the hallway. And there are many more under them that have degraded a lot. It's too hard to conclude anything from them, though. Editor and Katai had just left, so 2 of the pairs might have belonged to them. As I looked at the footprints more, I realised that at least 3 different pairs were distinguishable. One set was fairly small, another was medium-sized, and the last was the biggest. In addition, the smaller ones were older. Huh. Are these Islas? They can't be, right? And I think they're a bit too big. Wait, look! The elevator door is shut. I walked back to the hallway and saw that the elevator was back in operation. After the many hours it had spent stuck in the attic, someone had chosen to re-enable it. I wondered if Edina or Katai had done it. What it meant was that the footprints would reveal the exact number of people who entered or exited the attic. We wanted to understand what had gone on while we'd stayed in the bedroom, so we chose to walk down the floor. To the shitty offices. The attic key was still in the door. The vast and desolate side of the 6th floor, which contrasted the comfort of the attic, was a stark reminder of how things had progressed since the morning. We should find Sai. He has to be somewhere, and he could know what happened to Akaro. I'm not sure he'll willingly talk to us after what he did. If he's still around though, we'll find him. The same applied to Akaro, and there was a possibility one last person was to be found. Had Edina imagined her dead daughter's yells? Or had there been some truth behind them? After everything we'd thought, we couldn't fully rule out that a living Isla being present around us. It's true. In fact, that sounds like a more likely proposition, to be fair. We monotonously circled the floors like we'd done many times. We didn't waste time looking through the partitions, as making it to the crystal floor was our priority. Although using the elevator would have been expedient, we wanted to stretch our legs and at least give a cursory glance through the drab centre of the tower. After moving down 3 floors, an unexpected sound interrupted the overwhelming silence. It was the elevator moving through floor 4. There it is again. We were in front of the elevator, but the opaque door didn't reveal any information. I wish the button would light up when the elevator's moving. I doubt Editor and Katai would have used it already, no matter the reason. I'd say it was probably someone else. We hadn't tried to open its door in the attic, so we couldn't know the direction it had been moving toward. However, it was likely it had been used to move from one extreme of the building to the other. If we're going 1 floor, you might as well take the stairs, right? We would have gone back up if we'd known that the elevator hadn't been in the attic, as it would have guaranteed that it had been moving up. Instead, it only took us a few seconds to circle the outer corridors until we were by the staircase leading to floor 2. There the sound repeated, but it was much harder to notice. Again? It's only been a few seconds, so the first time someone must have called it. You're right, yeah, so either someone called it from under us and they just went up, or the opposite. I would think we missed someone above us, so I'd say the elevator was going up this time. If we were about to find an empty crystal floor, we'd go up again, since the attic key hadn't been removed from the door, unless the elevator had been called from the attic. We could have only reached floor 6, of course, assuming another key hadn't been used, but it wasn't likely one existed. Knowing that it still could have been going down, we continued heading toward the crystal floor. Shortly we were in front of the stairs that led to the dark place, where everything had started. There was no revealing sight that immediately met our eyes. The floor spread out in front of us, exactly as we remembered it. In hallway A, the light had begun to find a path through the dark barrier and bounced off the walls more than it had the last time I'd been there. The strange smell hadn't faded since we'd been in the attic, and it had started to seem like a natural scent of the tower. It wasn't unpleasant, only intriguing, as I could associate it to anything I'd ever smelled, and we couldn't identify its source. Let's see. At our left was the elevator. I approached it and grabbed its handle. With little force, I attempted to open it, and there was unexpectedly no resistance. The door moved, uncovering an empty elevator, and my mistaken assumption. It was going down. Is there someone above us who we didn't see? If so, they must be here now. Maybe someone at the bottom just called it. That had left me more confused than I'd anticipated. While it was possible that someone had gone up and down from the crystal floor, or that they'd sent an empty elevator down upon arriving in the attic, Shinoya's claim was the most probable one. However, if we'd already missed someone on the upper floors, they'd probably stayed away from us intentionally, so using the elevator to reveal their existence was a little strange. I moved aside, trying not to obsess over it yet. Before any of that, we should check if the Sekimeiya we left in the cabinet is still there. Yeah, but I wouldn't bet on it. We stepped into hallway A. The cabinet key had been taken by Arcado and Sai, so no part of me expected to find a shiny egg behind the curtain. We entered the event room, and I approached the cabinet to see if my expectations would be betrayed twice in a row. It's not there, right? No. I can't wait to find Sai and hear the excuses he'll come up with. Before I let the curtain fall, I tried to scroll the glass open, and it moved along with my fingers easily. The cabinet was definitely unlocked with the key, so there's no way the Sekimeiya teleported itself out. Isn't that still a little strange? What is? That they didn't lock it again. Maybe it's not, since it's obvious that Arcado and Sai did it, but I thought they would have done that to not give away so easily that the key they'd grabbed had been used. I'm not sure, they could have been in a hurry, but they must have known they'd be suspected regardless. However, the glass hadn't been shut, not showing any signs of a hurry, and despite that... The glass had been shut, sorry, not showing any signs of a hurry. Despite that, the cabinet hadn't been locked, which could also have been done manually. It was possible that there was more to Shinoya's input, but we had no way to be sure. Earlier, I thought that they were maybe taking the Sekimeiya out so the cold wouldn't affect it. If that were the case, I'm pretty sure they would have locked the cabinet to prevent us from putting it back if we found it. It's a good point. There are other cabinets with temperature functions, but I think you're right. I'm sure they could have taken care of the others in different ways too. I suppose it's time to check our Sekimeiya. Nobody could have taken it, but it might have started working. Do you want to activate it? I don't know, it might be dangerous, but nothing happened to us the other times. It sounds very reckless, but it can take us to the past. If it started working at some point, we might be able to go quite a few hours back. If that happens, we won't appear in the tower, because there's no way we missed ourselves from the beginning. It could put us outside instantly. Technically, we could have been in the secret partition of the storeroom. You're right though, it could take us out. Seeing it like that, it was a lucky chance. Did the Sekimeiya have the power to kill us, and raise our memories and free us from the tower? Oh, yeah, maybe. Could it even let us see me again? Possibly. I hadn't made up my mind. If we had the chance, activating it would always be tempting, as it could let us understand its mechanics and what had been going on. Undecided, we exited through hallway B. See if it's still there first. Directly at our left was a staff room housing our own Sekimeiya. We couldn't feel the presence of anyone else, so we entered it. Remembering which locker belonged to Naomi, I stepped toward it while Shinoya stayed by the door to alert me of any sound. I took the key out of my pocket and inserted it into the keyhole. With 2 fingers, I turned it to undo the lock. The sharp sound told me that I'd been successful. Lastly, I removed the key, which opened the metallic door. At the same time, I saw the narrow interior, with the code hanging as we left it. Then I raised my line of sight to reach the higher compartment. Let me guess it's missing. It wasn't stirring anything. Its interior contained nothing but an empty space waiting to be filled. My dumbfounded look persisted until the realization fully sank in. Hey, this is the right locker, isn't it? We left it up here. Yes, is it not there? Look, there's nothing. She approached me with a neutral face. Not a slight hint of surprise emanated from her. By that point, something truly impressive would need to occur to evoke genuine shock from us. We felt like we'd seen it all. We definitely left it here. Was it still locked? Yeah. We let out exasperated sighs. We kept the Sekimeiya hidden so that nobody else would find it, but it seemed that it had decided to spite us and disappear. Even though it hadn't made us travel before we'd left it, it evidently did have powers, and nobody should have been able to take it out. Did it teleport like Sai's been saying? Well, he and Arcado couldn't have taken it. If it did, we might know when. We've never seen 2 Sekimeiyas exist at the same time, but it should have happened at some point. when one supposedly appeared in Sai's hip pack, right? I nodded, unsure. Even though 2 Sekimeias might have existed at that point, they had to be the same one, and one had travelled from the future. Sai told you that he didn't know he had it, and that he never put it there. He could have been telling the truth. At that point, another Sekimeiya existed inside a cabinet in room B3, and we used it to travel to the past. If it can randomly teleport itself, it could be travelling to the past as well. After all, when it came back to that room, the Sekimeiya in the cabinet had disappeared after the point I'd seen it grey. Right, but we thought Sai had taken it. So maybe they just keep it cold so it doesn't leave the building on its own. It could have travelled to the past, to Sai's hip pack. I guess Sai's own existence is another mystery though. After that, he hid it in the cleaning room. Next, we hid it in this locker, but at some point the same thing happened. It teleported to the hallway A cabinet with Isla. This time, it didn't even have to teleport to the past. It could have simply teleported. Then, since we brought it to the event room, Arcado and Sai could have taken it with the key. This could explain how, at the start, it appeared in the storeroom. I spent a few seconds and thought, so it's disappearing randomly. There are a couple of things I'm not sure about. Even though I could have teleported to the storeroom, the cabinet in the event room had been unlocked, implying that one of us had moved it. I suppose it's possible someone hid it in hallway B and it teleported to the storeroom, but that's hard to believe. And there's one unexplained thing I can think of. The first time Isla disappeared from the cabinet before appearing again, nothing was found inside, so the Sekimeiya couldn't have teleported from this locker yet. Oh, something else is needed to explain that, yeah. I guess the Sekimeiya could have travelled from the locker to another place, Katai activated it, and then it travelled again to the cabinet with Isla. That's one way to put it together. I think everything holds up. Anyway, if the Sekimeiya was actually taken from here by someone, it's very possible they put it inside Isla's cabinet. Honestly, it feels a bit strange to think that it's been teleporting itself through time at random intervals. Well, how else could it have disappeared from here? There's no way this lock was picked, right? Well, you wouldn't pick it closed again, would you? After thinking about it, I spotted a couple of alternative paths to take. The door was still locked, so I highly doubt the lock was picked and then set again. Only one thing would have been needed to get the Sekimeiya out of here if it never disappeared all by itself. The key. Duplication can be easily achieved by travelling to the past since 2 versions of yourself exist at the same time. I'm not sure about everything you can do with it, but it can work with objects, as we're also replicating our clothes after travelling. I don't believe that's ever happened to this key, but it's not out of the question. Since the time we found the first Naomi up to this point, it never travelled through time. Before that point though, we don't know. While the mystery of the second Naomi is as unsolved as ever, she didn't have any keys on her, which makes me think that her keyring wasn't replicated alongside her body and clothes. But that's not necessarily the truth. The main reason why I think that is because the initial footprints in the attic, and because her keys weren't removed the first time. There could have been a reason for that though, and the culprit might have had a replica of Naomi's keyring from the start. It's even possible an entirely different culprit killed the second Naomi and grabbed her keys. They would have hidden them somewhere, so after how much we searched, it's impressive if we still haven't found them. Since we searched everyone before locking ourselves up in the attic, it can't be that someone still had the 4 keys from the second Naomi at that point. While it is possible, I don't think another key like this one exists. I'm inclined to believe that the second Naomi never had any keys on her. Yeah, so nobody could have opened the locker. No, we could have. We have the key, so we could go back to the past and unlock it. Oh, yeah, I guess so. But this can't be it. I spent a while thinking about these kinds of loops, and even though they seem possible, I find it hard to accept them. If we go back to the past and get the Sekimeiya out of this locker, would the origin be that we realised that it had happened? Would we be choosing to explain this mystery in our way? Even if we go back to the past and get it out because we realise that otherwise Sai or Arcado will do it, the fundamental reason would still be that we've witnessed the end result already. On the surface it sounds possible, but I don't believe it is. Shiroya kept looking at me with a strange face. Perhaps listening to me toss out those words sounded bizarre, as we never had conversations remotely similar to that. You're still saying there's no other possibility, right? No, I'm saying that right now, there's likely only one. Someone else will grab this key, go back to the past and use it to unlock the locker. Huh. Such an abrupt response made me laugh. I might have been deluding myself a little, but I thought I'd reached that conclusion through semi-logical reasoning. I shook some thoughts away and closed the locker without locking it. Then I left the room and told Shiroya to follow me. I entered the woman's bathroom and waited for her to come. While she looked at me quizzically, I opened the toilet's lid and dropped the key inside and flushed it. There it goes. What are you doing? Yeah, it seems I was wrong. Perhaps I'm taking myself too seriously. The universe didn't break, and I doubt the past changed. My theory involves someone else using the key to go back to the past and take it out Sekimeiya, so this is an easy way to deny that reality. It appears the answer was another one though. I mean, the Sekimeiya vanished differently. It could be teleporting itself. We already talked about that. Maybe it's just becoming invisible. We went back to the staff room. If against all odds my action to change the past without breaking the universe or altering our memories, the locker would be locked and we'd have no way of getting the Sekimeiya out. I stepped inside and tried to open it. I left it unlocked, so it opened. Once again, the winter coat was the only thing inside. I brushed my hand through the higher compartment just to make sure that it wasn't actually going invisible or anything. I shrugged and closed the locker, unable to lock it anymore. Still nothing. Well, Sai seems like a bottom feeder, so maybe you flushed the key into his home. I exited the room without revealing that I'd been about to consider something similar. I smiled slightly to myself and looked around the hallway. I guess we should try and find the others. We have to be close to someone. Yeah, let's see who we come across. After the longest time, we put into action the usual procedure. We began with the cleaning room at our side. Next was the crystal room B6, found on the opposite side. Atsuki, the Sekimeiya's on the floor. I'd been about to move to the next room when Shiroya's casual voice stopped me in place. I turned around slowly to see her nodding at my disbelief. I approached the door and looked through it. In front of the cabinet was the Sekimeiya lying on the floor and glowing white. Once again, Shiroya had found it as soon as we'd started to search. That's sudden. Who would have left it there? Nobody. I bet someone activated it, disappeared, and didn't come back. I thought of Akuto's case. If he'd forgotten having travelled from the room, he wouldn't have come back. Similarly, if someone had travelled and appeared outside the tower, the Sekimeiya would have stayed there. We walked up to it with guarded stances. The sight was very reminiscent of an obvious trap, the lure, so we'd instinctively scan the empty room before stepping in. I kneeled, hid my right hand under my sleeve, and stood back up holding the Sekimeiya. It's definitely working. It burns. What do we do with it? I couldn't hold it for very long due to the heat increasing rapidly through my shirt. I started to walk toward the door as I thought about it. Either we use it or we leave it in its cabinet. There's no point hiding it again if we're not going to ever activate it. It might be dangerous. My greed and curiosity were powerful. In my hands I had the key to every mystery. I thought we had given up on understanding it, but if we figured out how to use a time travel device before it was exposed to the world, it was undeniable that the options could be endless. Given what happened while we were in the attic, it seems likely that whoever took the Sekimeiya was the main culprit behind everything. Despite that, they simply left it here, probably after using it. They haven't come back for it, so that could be a hint to their goal, or their failure. Regardless, it was probably activated recently, so we shouldn't go too far back. Just enough to understand what went down while we were in the attic. Also, I don't think it's as hot as it was in the past, so depending on how far we go, we could confirm that correlation. Alright, let's see what happens. She moved closer to me, implying that she wanted to be in the range too. It might have been a horribly bad idea, but the Sekimeiya's existence felt like nothing short of a miracle that otherwise we'd regret not taking advantage of. It could have been about to doom the entire world, but during those 12 hours, we had it all to ourselves. And a race to understand it might have been happening behind the scenes. We hadn't inspected the whole building yet, so the possibility of having travelled to the recent past was open. I took my left hand out of my sleeve and brought it toward the Sekimeiya with intentions of further figuring out its mechanics, limits, and what had occurred outside of the bedroom walls. As soon as I felt direct heat on my fingers, I saw a door. I'm back here. Wait, the handle's attached. I heard a sound coming from behind me. As I turned around, I saw Shiroya climbing down from the ladder. Did you just appear there? Yeah, we travelled from room B6, right? Yes, and look, there's the handle. Either we went more than an hour and a half to the past, or just a few minutes. Shiroya and I slowly scanned the place we travelled to, but we didn't spot anything else noteworthy. We'd appeared in the bedroom where we'd just been. You said it didn't feel as hot as the previous times, so probably the ladder. She was right, meaning that we weren't going to see anything that had happened while we'd been locked up. However, every single time travel revealed plentiful factors to analyse. Comparing them with the earlier travels felt like the best way to get to conclusions. This is my fourth travel in a game. Nothing bad has directly come of it. I don't know what happened to Isla and Akuto, but I doubt the mere act of travelling is bringing any danger. Regarding my memories, I summarised the basic events in case there was a glaring contradiction she could find. Yeah, that's all that happened. Unless travelling affected our memories in the same way, there's nothing wrong with what you said. I'm starting to think more and more that Akuto lied to us. He reacted to the mention of the Sekimeiya, but that could have been intentional, to relate his memory loss to it and make it more believable. I feel that Katai was right, and he was trying to prevent us from leaving. After his job was done, he must have escaped somehow. How though? I don't know, but I can come up with a little idea. We had the key, and the chain was left set. That means it's likely he teleported out. I thought that perhaps Sai did that. Maybe he travelled next to the door to encompass Arcado and make him escape, since neither of them could open the door. It could be that he made us go to the upper bedroom so we wouldn't travel with him. I don't know why he'd do any of that, but there's not much else I can think of. Actually, no, Arcado could have escaped all by himself and left the chain set. Maybe he suddenly disappeared from the room, travelling to the past. Then in the past he activated the Sekimeiya to encompass the bed in which he was sitting. It wasn't necessary for Sai to do that as long as Arcado had thought of it. It must have happened before someone travelled from room B60. We walked out. When I looked at the living room, I instantly recognised our own footprints. These are definitely ours. They're very recent. We went a few minutes to the past. Someone must have used that Sekimeiya very shortly before us. We can't see what happened, but we can be pretty sure of that. And if Arcado never actually escaped the way I said, it's possible they went very far into the past. We spent a long time in the bedroom, so there was a lot of time for the Sekimeiya to store. You know, this could have been what Arcado and Sai worked together to accomplish. The stored time was originally Sai's idea. Arcado's job could have been to keep us from exiting the bedroom, letting the Sekimeiya store time for a while. Once they'd waited the required amount, they activated it, and went far enough into the past to exit the tower. Since the Sekimeiya was left on the floor, it's possible they aren't here anymore. And they couldn't simply have waited more before escaping the bedroom because the Sekimeiya was in the cold. There's still the disappearing Sekimeiya in the locker to explain, but that'd be the only thing. Yeah. Sai seemed to be having fun, so exiting the tower didn't seem like something he'd want to do. However, they did this right after discovering the storeroom's secret exit. I believe that as soon as they saw that, they realized they could go back many hours in time, find that door from the outside, and try to enter and exit with the Sekimeiya. They might have been about to attempt to return, since doing it earlier would have made their own time travel impossible. Let's go down and keep an eye on the Sekimeiya. It's a bit hard to believe that everyone's goal isn't to escape with it. I nodded. Shiroi rushed to the elevator and called it after seeing that the door wouldn't open. Huh, this happened again. What? The elevator, remember? We were the ones to call it seems. This also happened at the beginning, during my first travel. Oh, I didn't even think about it. It's coming up, meaning that it was us from... it was below us when we heard it on the office floors. We go to the crystal floor, where we saw it had arrived. According to her, she called it without realizing that she'd been about to cause the noise that we'd already heard. The belief that every event had an origin point was reinforced once more, as she'd unconsciously reenacted the past. Us hearing the elevator had derived into travelling to the past, but the action of calling the elevator had an organic origin. Not only that, but we'd covered the single sign of life we'd experienced. So we'd had to seriously wonder what had happened to Sai, Arcado, Edina, and Katai. When the buttons lit up, she opened the door, and we boarded the elevator. Without a second thought, she pressed the floor 1 button. While it started to move down, we once again experienced the claustrophobic atmosphere that the dim light and opaque doors effortlessly created. We soon passed floor 3, where our past selves must have found ourselves wondering who was inside the elevator and where it was headed. We weren't in a big hurry, but we knew that we would soon appear on the crystal floor from the stairs. I thought of what to do to escape our past field of vision. We entered the event room from hallway A, and after seeing the empty cabinet, we looked inside Naomi's locker. We should go to the lobby, where we won't be seen. Still worried about breaking reality, huh? Sounded like the best idea, so we moved there and closed the hallway A door behind us. Even though there wasn't much to be tense about, we felt safe staying there, and we began to mindlessly move toward the metal shutter. Remember what I thought the time you appeared in the living room? It seems as if we'd appeared where we'd been in the midpoint of the time traveled. Yeah, and this time something similar happened. I noticed it too. I think it might have been the opposite. You appeared on the lower level of the bedroom and I was upstairs next to the hatch. Those exact positions occurred before we unlocked the bedroom. Right, I followed Katai down and he peeked from the hatch when I was already below. That might have been the location. And that probably happened a bit more than 10 minutes before we touched the Sekimeiya. Then we discussed whether to leave, place the handles back on the door, walk down to the crystal floor, and talked about the Sekimeiya vanishing. We appeared in the bedroom before the time that we'd heard the elevator. We might have appeared where we'd been 10 minutes prior to travelling. while only having gone back 5. It's the opposite of what I thought regarding the last travel. It swapped the 2 points, although I'm not sure if the times fit that well. That could be it, but it's still not consistent with any of the past travels. If there aren't any set rules, there's no point trying to understand how the Sekimeiya works. However, what's most important is that once again, a past position was used to determine where we would appear, even if it was done differently. We heard an indistinct sound coming from hallway A, made by a door. That's us. We just entered the event room. We waited, and seconds later, the same sound came from hallway B. Unmistakably, a closing door had created it. Now we're in the staff room. We'll travel very soon. We thought we only had to wait until Shiroya became aware of one thing we'd missed. Hey, look at the floor there. Isn't that blood? What? She was pointing at a spot next to hallway A door. From afar, I could see a tiny red spot close to the cleaning bucket. Both of us walked up to it. As the sight became clearer, Shiroya's interpretation proved to be right. A single drop of blood existed on the spacious floor of the lobby. It's definitely blood. The contrast with the shiny white floor was immense. I looked around the entire room, but the drop Shiroya had found was the only one I could see. Fortunately, it was enough to tell us something very important. It's almost dry. Must have been here for a little while. From when we were locked up in the attic, blood dripped off someone. Akira didn't look injured when he came back, but that doesn't mean much. Isn't it strange that it was left here? If someone was in a hurry of being chased by an attacker, they wouldn't have cleaned it, but I feel like the culprit would have, right? Perhaps it's not evidence worth cleaning up, but it tells us that something happened. Blood can never be a good sign. I feel like this is a place where evidence would be removed from, since it doesn't have security cameras. I stared at the single drop of blood. Something about it was intriguing. While it wasn't a puddle, it was fairly wide. It wasn't a single drop that would come out of an innocuous scratch. Despite that, there was only one mark. Since any wound that produced a drop of that size would keep bleeding, it was likely to have been covered to prevent further blood loss. Edna and Katai must be somewhere, but they can't have anything to do with this. Even though Akira didn't appear injured, it's possibly dripped blood before travelling to the past, which could have undone a recent injury. After saying that, the thought came to me, is the Sekimeiya reconstructing our past bodies? We'd asked ourselves that question many times before, and I had found a way to answer it. Abruptly, I put my hand in my right pocket and felt something. I took it out and showed it to Shiroya. Ah, that's for Naomi's locker. Did you appear with it after travelling? I must have. I flushed it away before touching the Sekimeiya, but since I had it when we were in the bedroom, I appeared with it in my pocket. Like we suspected, the Sekimeiya had been replicating our past bodies exactly as they were in the past. In the bedroom, I appeared facing the door. Even the position of my body matched, and yours must have too. Since at that point the key was under my possession, it was also on the body I appeared in. Again, if that's why the cleaning cart didn't appear anywhere in the past, what's more likely is that it ceased existing as soon as you travelled touching it. I see, yeah. That must be how it works. I closed my eyes. It was very likely we concluded something regarding the Sekimeiya's travels, but at first glance it didn't seem too important. I had even thought of it before without giving it too much importance. However, we could almost be certain that the Sekimeiya replicated our past bodies exactly as they'd once been. As soon as I tried to explore that concept, something major came to me. It was proof that small details could open seemingly sealed doors, and that we'd had to explore every little path. If it reconstructs our body, it means it could bring dead people back to life. Escaping alive had been the main goal at the start, then escaping with a time travel device had begun to sound like an achievable goal that some of us might have shared. However, Shiroya and I had internally sought an unreachable peak, while we'd been taunted by such inconsequential time travel. That was saving our friend who died 2 weeks earlier. Even though it had appeared impossible regardless of the approach, concluding that last detail might have opened the first real path to it, no matter how vague or improbable. If we could understand what determined the exact amount of time to be travelled, and most importantly, the appearing location, if there had been a time in which I'd been touching Mia, and I could replicate that body, it's possible that Mia would appear with me. It might have been real. While it didn't sound at all that special, the locker key had just been brought back into existence. I'd flushed it away through the toilet, and I managed to get it back with the Sekimeiya. Mia's circumstances were the same, with the sole difference that she was a human being. My past body and my possessions of the past could be replicated, but Mia might not have counted if I'd simply been touching her. But what if I could think of a time where I'd been holding her hand or her shirt? None immediately came to mind, but they might have applied. I looked at Shiroya, whose pensive look must have resembled mine. We remained silent for many seconds, and while I hadn't thought of voicing my recent thoughts to her, she might have found that same path herself. I took a couple of steps back to lean on the column, trying to break through the single wall that blocked my reasoning. The sole difference is that she's a human being. I might have been too fast to think that. While I thought that we couldn't rule this out without attempting it, I see a big problem that might just reveal its impossibility. The biggest difference between a key and a human being is, without a doubt, the possession of consciousness. In the bedroom, our past bodies were recreated, and we appeared within them. The locker key is proof of enough of that. If our past bodies were recreated, the brain must have belonged to the past version of us. Despite that, we possess memories and knowledge obtained after the recreated point. So even though we appeared in bodies identical to our past minds were left out. Why did our consciousness appear in our past bodies without conflicting with our past consciousness? That has to be because we touched the Sekimeiya while in possession of a future consciousness. Then it was put within a past version of us, one that had a vacant mind. So, what would happen if I could replicate my body from the time I'd been holding Mia? My consciousness would make it to the replicated body, but since Mia wouldn't travel with the Sekimeiya, there'd be none to insert to hers. Therefore, it's possible I'd appear next to a lifeless body, as past consciousnesses aren't being replicated. But I can't know whether I'm overriding my past consciousness every time I replicate my body, or if it's merely not being replicated and I'm occupying an empty spot. After all, the Sekimeiya touched Isla's dead body and she didn't travel. That's probably because there was no longer a consciousness present within her. To try and make this happen, and test which hypothesis is correct, attaching ourselves to the smallest possibility, we'd have to understand the Sekimeiya completely. Then the attempt would have to be final and about Mia. Shiroya and I can't arrange the necessary circumstances by ourselves to see if it could ever work, because a successful result would create an extra and permanent version of one of us. So the first step, which determines the point in time our replicated bodies are based on, it's definitely different from the amount of time traveled, and it doesn't seem to be consistent. But the second step, the amount of distance traveled, appears to work under a consistent rule. The longer the Sekimeiya spends storing energy, the further we travel. Meanwhile, the replicated location has differed with every travel, and there's no clear rule to draw. Nonetheless, it's hard to think that only one thing would be consistent. The core of replicating a past location is purely teleportation. We're teleported to a coordinate of space we were once at. However, how is the Sekimeiya working with that coordinate? While the answer could be that its powers are simply magical, there's more depth to it than I first thought. The easiest concept of teleportation to grasp consists of two containers and matter teleporting from one to the other. The teleportation point is the other container because it exists and can be accessed. We aren't appearing inside designated and fixed containers though, so let's assume that the coordinate of the bedroom where I appeared can be measured with a number. When I touched the Sekimeiya, it sent me to that space coordinate after recognizing that I found myself there in the past. The problem is that we live on Earth, a planet that is constantly moving. As time went forward, Earth would have moved away from that coordinate, and it would have corresponded to the attic's bedroom. Wouldn't have corresponded to the attic's bedroom anymore. If the Sekimeiya had simply sent me to one of my past coordinates, chances are I would have appeared in the middle of space. Going off Shiroya's estimate, we appeared where we'd been 10 minutes prior to travelling, while having only gone back 5. At that point, the coordinate that had once belonged to the attic's bedroom had already been vacated by Earth. I've been walking in circles around the column, absorbed in my unusual thoughts. Shiroya saw that I'd stopped and stretched her body a bit. Should we go? It's well past the time we travelled. Yes, but I want to do one thing first. I showed her the locker key, then we left through hallway B. It became evident we'd left the doors of the two rooms open, the event room and the room B6. I ignored them and walked to the bathrooms. Like before, I raised the toilet's lid and tossed the key inside before flushing it away. I had to do it again after I returned, to deny once more the reality in which someone uses it in the past to take our Sekimeiya. Well, the universe handled it fine again. The way the Sekimeiya disappeared from the locker was still basically a locked room mystery. She shrugged, and while she was right, I still went to the staff room. I was able to open the locker just fine, and there was no Sekimeiya inside. Nobody else ever had that key, right? Could someone go back in time and replicate a position in which they'd held it? I came inside, found the whole set on the first Naomi, I'm pretty sure. My mind had gone pretty deep into it. What if someone had replicated a position in which they'd been holding me? Had that ever happened? If that would create a lifeless body of mine, it could appear holding the key. Let's get the Sekimeiya. It still has to be in the other room. Alright, we need to wrap this one up here because we're out of time for today. But apparently we're getting a little bit closer to understanding it. I'm not too sure, man. I feel like he's making a lot of assumptions that he doesn't have a lot of evidence for at this stage. But we'll see, we'll see. I mean, if you're dealing with time travel, like legitimately in real life, if you had the ability to travel in time, right? Just suddenly someone gave you that ability. I feel like that's a power you'd have to be very, very careful with. I feel like that can be very dangerous. So maybe he's just being cautious. I don't know. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll see you in the next one.